we have an amazing guest. His name is Richard Salem, and this podcast is called The Awakened Man Discovering Freedom Through God. I know, that's already heavy. Rich is from Cali. He's an MMA coach, artist, professional. And when I spoke to him earlier, I loved what he said about what he does. He literally helps people emotionally get in shape and mentally get in shape. So you need to have the right mind frame of self-awareness. So this entire journey, Richard, you have an incredible story. I'm so excited to interview you and have the world hear your story as well. So what I want to know on this podcast, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, no filter, please. Where you were 5 years ago, what you went through, your darkest days, dancing with the demons, who you are today, the whole 180 turnaround. Is it 180, 360? How you discovered your freedom through God, and you know what? You have no idea the amount of violence it took to be this gentle. So, from your childhood trauma to becoming a real man, I'm going to start with a really tough question. If you could change anything about the way you were raised, what would it be?
I suppose it would be learning what love is.
I love that. So what does love mean to you?
Well, I used to have a little saying that I'd tell people. I'd say, you want an adrenaline rush, fall in love. Love, I feel honestly, that is such a universal question because the answer itself can be so universal. It's really just in the heart of the beholder. So for myself, love is a bit more complex than the average Joe, I suppose. I used to, when someone would tell me they loved me, I used to look at them and say, what have I ever done so wrong to you? Damn, how dare you, hate me so much? And that's just it. I feel that when you love something so much that in turn you almost hate it, because the hatred builds up knowing that you are eventually going to lose that thing someday, or you can potentially lose that thing someday. And just that thin ice of it, that delicacy of it, can truly drive you so crazy and hurt you so much that it could just drive you to hatred.
Yeah, and you know what? As a man, society puts this pressure on you guys to not feel your feelings, but that means you're cutting yourself off your emotions, which means you cut yourself off from love. So tell me, where were you 5 years ago? I know you were in a really tough relationship. A lot went on. What happened during that time, and who did you become through it all?
5 years ago, I met a woman who was fresh out of a very long marriage, around 15 years. She had three young boys that were just as confused as she was at the time. And I had essentially just not necessarily lost my father in terms of his life, but his mental capacity due to dementia around that time. And I was essentially subconsciously searching for a family of my own. I don't have much family at all. And so when I found this woman, we had so much in common. And I prayed heavily. I really did. I prayed heavily to the Lord, being a Christian man, to guide me through the beginning stages of that relationship. And I truly still to this day feel in the beginning that the Lord truly gave me the strength to not give up. And throughout that relationship, the duration that was about 4 years long, we literally touched, you know, the depths of hell. And that's so cliche for people to say, but this, you know, woman, her heart was so fragile and fresh out of her really rough, you know, not only ex-partner, ex-husband, but also her upbringing wasn't the nicest at all. And regardless, you know, we went from living on a spare, the floor of a spare bedroom in a home with mold, a home with crackheads and yada yada, to, you know, sticking it through with each other and getting our own place in the desired area in Fairfield, California, where we, you know, essentially aim to live at. And I mean, this woman and I really, you know, went up and down, up and down. And unfortunately, it ended really badly. And throughout all the pain, I will still say on record, on video, or to whoever, the woman's, she's an amazing mother. And despite all the hard times she's had growing up, and with men, even myself included, if I'm humbly speaking, I am honestly speaking, she's one hell of a person. Nonetheless, I just feel she has some soul searching and finding grace to do herself.
Yeah, yeah. And I know we're being real and raw here, so I'm going to dive a little bit deeper. Um, I know from you sharing your story prior, it was quite a toxic relationship, and I know that you've got this passion to, you know, speak to couples that are in a toxic relationship with each other and constantly fighting all the time. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I went into just starting off by sharing a little bit more of my own experience. I went into that relationship not only with her, but with her 3 kids as well, and as well as her entire ex-in-laws and her family, etc. Like I said, I don't have much family, and still to this day, I have even less now. And so I really latched on, but it was far from easy. I mean, I don't think anyone can, you know, not many people are going to meet a nearly, you know, middle-aged 40-year-old woman with 3 boys. And at my age, I was 32 at the time, I believe. Not many people are going to jump right into that. Like, oh yeah, that sounds like it's a great thing to do. And I mean,
And play
please
the
believe
father
me.
role as well, right? Like you, at a really young age, you stepped into a father figure right away for those
Right.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, despite all my boys, you know, all my friends in general, just like, hey man, you're tripping, you know, like why would you take on such a role? I knew from the beginning it was going to be an uphill battle. I knew that, just not only because of the situation itself, but because of the individuals that were in the situation. I knew it would be hard to get her to trust me, to show her how special she is, you know, let alone winning over the kids and getting them to trust me. So, but I accepted the challenge. By far, I accepted the challenge, and I was okay with that, because that's just, you know, I knew from the beginning of meeting this woman that she'd be a very important person to me. And like I said, I feel I truly had the Lord, or we had the Lord on our side. That being said, um, you know, as you mentioned, the father figure role, I didn't have my own father to bounce ideas off of, or to get his input on certain things. So yeah, I really went into it blindfolded and just using my better judgment, and kind of remembering how my father raised me. And for the most part, you know, I feel I did a hell of a job, um, especially with her kids. I truly gave that my all. I really wanted to be a positive male role model in their lives. But overall, just being completely solid and honest about it, I found through the pain of losing that relationship, losing that family I had with them, it took a long time, but I really, through being sober and sober-minded, I realized that the man in the mirror wasn't who I thought he was. I had a lot of flaws about myself, and that
So
being
can you
said, I mean,
touch a little bit more on when you say being sober? So in the relationship, what was happening? Like, were you just were your judgments clouded through being under like substances, or what's up? What happened there?
yeah, I had one hell of an addiction to pain medication, and uh, I was stabbed in 2008, in December 2008, and from there I was pretty much introduced to the world of pain medication, and I trained for many years. I'm on my 13th year now coaching, so it's very taxing on your body, and I do have physical pains, but my excuses outweighed the realistic side of the physical need for the chemical dependency. I was
How
on
did it
heavy.
affect your relationship?
It's just like any other drug, like any other. I mean, it's essentially a synthetic, doctor-made form of heroin. So I was experiencing all the highs and lows,
Mm.
and the withdrawals and the come downs, and and so was she, so was the kids, and she mentioned it to me several times throughout the relationship, like, this that's changing you, this stuff's changing you, and when you're in the thick of it, you're relying on something as a crutch. You're the last one to come to terms to look at that for what it is. You know what I mean? Like, you never want to, like, you're the last one with the enlightenment, unfortunately, and it never ends well. So, I
Now,
remember.
did she have any of her own addictions too? Like, were you guys addicted to the same things, or like how was it challenging in the relationship in that sense?
Yeah, she wasn't. She wasn't addicted to pills, but she definitely had a alcohol dependency, and I definitely blame myself for some of that. Um, I would throw alcohol at her often just to lighten the mood, to get certain things going in a certain direction, and I also blame myself partially for that, because I was a great man to her, I will say that, but I know I was a handful as well. And I know that if I would have made her life easier and more pleasant, and if I was more pleasant to be around, then she wouldn't need the amount of chemical dependency to deal and cope with the severity of the toxicity around her in her life.
Mhm.
And after recognizing that and realizing that, you know, that I had an issue. I mean, we broke up essentially my birthday of 2018, and by November, December of that same year, the following months, I was, you know, I was taking several Percocet and Oxycontin just to get out of bed, and I was up taking 30 Xanax per day. I was taking every form of antidepressant I could find just to cope with the pain. I figured, I just couldn't handle the fact and the thought of losing her, the realization of losing my family. And, you know, once I realized all that, I just, I mean, it took me a while to realize it, but once I realized all that, I mean, I had to have an overdose. I literally overdosed on prescription medication, on a medication called Seroquel. And
Was that
literally.
intentional?
I wasn't trying to necessarily kill myself. I just didn't want to feel how I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this was the beginning, like the very ending of 2018. I was still putting all the blame on her and just like, how dare she, I did this and that for her. I felt so, just used and abused. So, but not recognizing that if it's all her fault, then why are you running from you? Because anytime we're involved in substance abuse, we are running from ourselves. We're running from something. And if you are masking it with, I don't care if it's alcohol, crack, pills, anything, anytime you are taking yourself outside of your natural self, outside of who you wake up being with no substances being involved, you're running from yourself. So it took me a while to recognize and realize that. And now that I recognized it last year, January, as a matter of fact, of last year. And I was invited to church and I retouched bases back with the Lord. And, January of last year, I figured there's no way I'm going to live to see Valentine's Day, because I remember sobbing and sulking, thinking, what is she going to do for Valentine's Day? Who is going to spoil this woman? Because I spoiled this woman, not just with like materialistic things, but love, trying to make her feel, so special. But it was so, it was like for every good, I would mess it up. Or she wasn't perfect. She'd do a lot of messing up too, but I'm not here to talk about her mess ups. I can't speak for another person. I'm here to speak about me. So when I reconnected with the Lord, I feel that all my answers came to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them I didn't want to hear. A lot of them I didn't want to face. A lot of those answers I did not want to face. And
Okay. Let me ask you. So that was last year in January, did you say?
yeah,
Or this year? Okay. So prior to that, were you spiritual? Like, were you connected to God? Did you feel like you were connected to God throughout this entire, you had some tough 4 years. And I also want you to touch on how it all ended. And but yeah, were you walking alongside with the Lord throughout the entire time, or what happened there?
I was saved in 2013. Um, my old neighbor, he's a Vietnam sniper. He just super hardcore, Harley riding, beer drinking dude. He seen the life that I was living, being we were literally across the street, direct neighbors. And he tried for over 1 year to bring me to Christ. He bought me a Bible, the whole 9 yards. And it was just 1 year out the other. Like, I'm sure a lot of people look at Christianity. Like, I've heard that more than half of my homies at the time were Muslim. All my fighters at the time were Muslim. So they were telling me all these negative things about Christianity. My other side of my homies are essentially like atheists in a sense. They just, they're just like, either way, I wasn't surrounded by any positivity when it came to Christ. So finally in 2013, when my dad's dementia really hit hard and came to realization that it wasn't getting any better, it was getting far worse. As a matter of fact, I had my breakdown and I finally came to Christ. So to answer your question, I was saved in 2013 technically, but I wasn't walking with the Lord. And
Mm.
for those who, I want to say for those who are Christians, that can make sense, and maybe that would help them look in the mirror and take accountability for their relationship and their walk with the Lord as well. But that also goes for non-believers, those who are not aware of uh, the details of what it takes, you know, to be a Christian. Like, it's
Mhm.
not simple. It's simple to be saved. It's simple to accept Christ into your life. That part's simple. But being a Christian, we are here, we're being treated as Jesus was treated. The person, the only person in this world's history, mankind's history, time and time again. I mean, this man came to the earth, healed the sick, turned water to wine. I mean, most people know the get down of it. And he was still hated. He
Mm.
was still hated. He didn't just talk about it. All we can do is talk about it as Christians, talk about the miracles of our Maker. This man, Jesus, was here shaking hands, hugging kids, loving everyone, proving to them. And he's still, you know,
Yeah,
so.
totally selfless love, selfless love. Um, yeah, I'm gonna dive into that a little bit more, but I want you to share, how did your relationship end? And were there moments where you felt like Jesus wasn't there, that had your back, and you were really dancing with the devil and getting real close to some darkness? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So that's what I say, you know, like I was so quick throughout my relationship to tell people I'm Christian because it felt good. It made me feel essentially not better than others, but just more spiritually responsible in a sense. And boy, I talk a good game. And I sounded good, you know, I sounded good. Um, But looking back on it, you know, like I wasn't walking with Christ. I wasn't. I mean, I'd have maybe 3, 4 good months of off and on walking with the Lord throughout the years. And the things that, the way I treated this woman when I would be either coming down from my opiate frenzy or my opiate high, or just the way I treat her in reaction and response to how she would treat me. Or, I mean, I would think these crazy things. I would, you know, I was so jealous in certain areas and so insecure in certain areas. And, you know, a part of me is like, well, some of it wasn't unanswered or some of it wasn't justified. Like, the woman definitely did a few shady things from the get-go with exes and so forth in terms of talking, but nonetheless, like, as a Christian, in the book of Proverbs, it teaches us to, regardless if you're a man or a woman, that you must think before you act. You must be slow to anger, quick to love. And now when we jump to slow or quick to love, that brings up the aspect and the concept and the reality of love. Love itself is a representation of Christ. So I was doing everything but that. I mean, I was walking with the devil big time and praying to Jesus at night and thinking I was, you know, doing good, thinking that everything was okay. And again, I mean, looking back, I've had over a year to look back at my past ways and who I was with this person, and wondering where it went wrong. And now, I mean, the pain I went through with losing this woman is unmatchable. It's unimaginable and unmatchable. It's so cliche to say I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. If I ever had a worst enemy in my entire life, who's your worst enemy in life? Usually the person who's hurt you the most in life. Again, I'm not going to get into the details of what this woman did to me, especially, you know, when we broke up. She did a lot of uncalled for things, down to accusing me of trying to kill her and catch her house on fire and all sorts of crazy shit. And
Yeah, you
even
know what? That really fucking hits your character. So that's pretty intense shit to say. Um, I know there's way more to that, but like you had you didn't even have closure for some of the stuff that's happened in your relationship. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, well, as far as like, even with her car was blown up and our house was partially caught on fire. Um, I've said it then and I say it now, like, I didn't do that to that woman. I would never, especially who I was. Like, we must understand, I was already free from pills. As of January of last year, I was completely free of pills, walking firmly with the Lord Jesus. I would cut off more than half of my friends, and I didn't have that many to begin with, even at this time. I would never, ever, I would not only try to do that to her, I wouldn't do that to anyone. So, I understand I'm the usual suspect for anything bad that happens to that woman's life. I mean, God, she's probably still blaming me for stuff. But the point is, I understand. I understand why she would think that of me, but what she doesn't understand, what she doesn't know, and how could she, the morning that happened, or that I was alerted 6 o'clock that next morning or whatever, and I was half asleep, smashing from Roseville, California, back to the Bay to make sure her and whoever else was in the home was okay. So, I mean, anyway,
What else did you lose at the end of the relationship? Like you lost your family. You didn't have any more connection, no closure whatsoever. Like it was pretty extreme of a breakup. You know, some people have like really bad breakups, but yours is definitely a story worth sharing. What else did you lose? Because you have no closure whatsoever. Like you really don't even know why this person did what they did.
well, here's the thing with all that. Like, I understand why I lost her in a sense, but see if this makes sense. I deserved to lose her because I needed a wake up call as to who I truly was,
Hmm.
but I didn't deserve to lose her. You know what I mean? Like, I deserved to lose her at that moment in time, but to have an overall loss of her, that wasn't, right. It wasn't cool. That is what I do not have closure for. I understand that she was upset. I understand she was hurt. I mean, the way I spoke to this woman, no man, no man, I don't care what the case is. If you're a man out there, and I don't know who's going to hear this, but there's never, there's never a green light. And trust me, I'm not just some square that is just trying to stick up for women's rights. Fuck all that. Like, and yes, I'm a cussing Christian, sorry. But fuck all that. Like, I used to call my ex everything from cool to cunt, from, you know, bad bitch to just bitch. Like, I called her every name in the book. And not only did I call her that, but I'm 6'1", 240. Like, I would flip out on this woman. I would flip out on this woman, like put my head through doors, flip out on her, threaten to beat up all her friends, flip out on her. It ain't cool. It's not right. If you love someone, you do not treat them like that. In a relationship, especially one that's unevenly yoked, where you're both not bound with the love of Christ. And I mean, in that sense, how could we be? Because I was the worst representative of what Jesus is and his love for us, what it does for us. Why in the heck would anyone want to be a Christian through me? Like, that wouldn't make sense. So my point is, though, that in terms of there's lust and love, I had far more lust than love for her in the beginning. I had love for sure, but the love only came in after the lust was satisfied. However, when you're left like I was left and done like I was done, you're left with none of it. None of it satisfied. So yeah, I never got closure. I never got closure to understand, you know, as I mentioned, I don't really have much family, and my father is my best friend, and this woman knew that. And I won't get into the details because I don't like to do that if the other party's not here to defend themselves. So I'm not trying to like, speak too bad about her, but she left me with nothing at all. And that being said, I mean, I don't have any memories. I don't have any memories in pictures or anything like that of my father, materialistic or otherwise, or any period. I was left with nothing. So actions like that, that's like if you walked in and I was sleeping with your best friend, or if you walked in and I was having, relations with your sister or your mom, or you caught me cheating in any way, or if I murdered one of your loved ones, that's something you do to that person. But she didn't even do her ex-husband how she did me. And I know, I mean, this is over a year later, if I had cheated on the woman, I would have came forward to admit it, at least to myself, to bring closure to myself. So I don't know if the woman was told that I cheated on her, because I know a lot of her friends hated me. I don't know what the reason was, but I still to this day have no clue why she hates me so much. But
How's your healing journey been now, like a year after? How has your healing journey been now, a year later? What does
well,
that look like for you?
I truly feel that in certain instances in our lives, the only time we can heal is when we identify what is ailing us. The only time we can heal is when we identify what is hurting us. And in my case, the man in the mirror was hurting me. I was my own hindrance. I was holding myself back from healing because the same heart that was seeking forgiveness and healing was the same heart that was hurting itself. So coming to terms with that, there's no way I would have came to terms with any of that without Jesus, without, finding him. And he had been there the whole time. He had been there all along. I was, in a hotel for 2 months and dancing with demons, dancing with the devil in those hotels, just trying to figure out, how can I win her back? What can I say? I spent countless amounts of money. I went over 6, 7 between therapy and counseling sessions in a matter of 2 months. And just to try to show her, but it was really, none of those people can help you when you have Jesus in your heart, because God he's an Alpha and Omega. He knows you throughout anything. He knows the thick and thin of you. And my healing without opiates has been lovely. It was not easy, but throughout my journey of recognizing that opiates, I mean, so many people, I know myself, like when I would be stressed out with my ex, I would turn to pills. When we went to breakfast, I would turn to pills. I needed the pills. I felt I needed them to cope with society. I have really bad anxiety, still do to this day. And point is though, opiates, if you're happy, they accelerate that. But if you're upset, they also accelerate that. But the realization is it all ends up being sad. It all ends up being bad, because the higher you get, you're going to fall off. You're going to come down. And eventually you're just taking pills not to have a withdrawal. And once I recognized me under the control of substances, I was making opiates my God, and me under the control of them, under their wrath, I created this monster that pleased the devil so much. I mean, I'm embarrassed, of who I used to be. I hate the person I used to be. Who I used to be was a bitch. And I was so busy in my mind trying to show my ex like protection like, oh, I'm gonna protect you and blah blah. No one will ever mess with you and your boys. I got you, blah blah. I would even like talk bad about her friends' husbands and this and that because a lot of them are cheaters and so forth. But I didn't have any male figure in my life like
Mhm.
checking me, like, hey, bro, you're that bitch. You need to be checking yourself, not these other people. You're that bitch. I mean, it was opiates mixed with supplement abuse, with testosterone and steroids. And yeah, it's just a horrible mix. And I was a straight bitch. The way I dealt with everything was a coward's way out through
What's
thick and
your what's your definition of masculinity?
I feel as men in this world, men want to be tough. Men want to be tough and protective and strong. Women want to be pretty, sexy, beautiful. Men want to be hard. Women want to be soft. And I feel that true masculinity has nothing to do with the size of your muscles. It has to do with the size of your heart, the size of your brain. Your brain, in order to recognize that there's no amount of weight you could lift. They don't have anything to do with money. There's no amount of money you can make in order to be a man. A man is supposed to protect and cherish a woman, make her feel protected, make her feel like the most special person in the world. Never is it supposed to be flipped around to where the woman has to feel she needs protection against the person who's supposed to be protecting her. That could leave a woman clueless, confused, without closure. I could leave a woman feeling empty inside. Like, what did I do to deserve this? Trust me, like, again, any dudes that may be hearing this, this is real shit. I was that bitch. It don't matter. It don't matter how many people you could knock out or what you've done for your girl in that angle. If at the end of the day you're not that knight in shining armor for that woman, you ain't a man. Like that, you ain't a man for her at least. But true masculinity, I feel, comes from the Lord. Loving the Lord is the bravest thing a man can do. It's the most disciplinary action a man could ever exercise and show. You know, a woman who, you know, a woman who loves the Lord is the most beautiful thing in the world to me. A woman who, you know, said to me, true sexiness is a woman who's capable of receiving the Lord's blessing. A woman who I'd rather have you trust me as a woman and trust my word because I'm going to share the Lord with you rather than if you were to feel protected by me. You know what I mean? Like, don't get it twisted. That's my job as a man. I feel every man should protect his own, period. And his own should feel protected by him. But a man, to me, a true masculine man is showing his God muscle, showing his God muscle.
I love that. Yeah. One of my clients told me, she's like, you know what, I don't care about anything else, but I have God as my partner. I'm a co-creator with God. And being a Christian, like, you have to uphold a higher level of standards for yourself. And there is something called within Christianity a godly woman and a godly man. And when you dive into Christianity and that is your faith, and you put the Lord first, always, 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 God always comes first. You start to live life so different because now you're embodying the essence of God and you bring God into your heart. Everything you do comes from your heart place, and then you, like, whether it's good or bad, you know at the end of the day that you are dealing with God, and like your decisions, actions, it could hurt God or make God proud. So like your life is no longer your own. With that being said though, what is your opinion of like a godly man and a godly woman and a godly relationship, a relationship that does put God first? Like, how do you feel about that?
I feel that a Christian woman or a Christian man, once you truly felt the love of the Lord, the healing aspects, the healing properties of the Lord, the comfort, the protection, the first thing you want to do is rant and rave about it. The first thing you want to do is share that with someone else. And if you are a single man or woman, there's no way in the world you would seek anything other than, not saying that the woman or the man has to be Christian from the get-go, but at least has to have the open heart to not be afraid, to accept and to learn about Jesus. Now, my situation, for example, again, like, my ex left me one way or another. That woman left me hurt, battered, bruised. Some pains the Lord's having me work out through myself within time, all in time. But I don't feel some of them scars are ever going to heal. I feel that certain things with that woman will always be an everyday battle for me of not having her around and the kids, etc. However, humbly speaking, being a man about it, throwing myself under the bus, I didn't leave that woman with in 4.5 or 4 years, I didn't leave that woman with a good aspect, a good opinion, a good taste, a good feeling of who Jesus is and what Christianity is and its whole.
This whole experience that Rich has gone through, he has been so great at shedding the wisdom and the word of Jesus and God. And I mean, I have accepted Jesus Christ into my heart, and I can't tell you guys what he's done for me in my life and all the blessings that I've received. Not only the blessings, but like the healing and the love that I feel, the unconditional love that I feel. It's a feeling that you feel in your heart when you actually take the time to open up your heart, even if you don't believe, but if you ask, you will receive, and if you seek, you shall find. And that's what happened for me. I was like, God, I don't know if you're real. Jesus, I don't know if you're real, but I'm opening up my heart to you. Like, please show me that you're real. Show me in a way that I will understand easily that you're real. So, like I say to everybody, like, my walk with God and my faith with the Lord, every day I wake up and I pray to God, and He sets my day, sets the tone for it. And I always say, okay, Lord, guide the way for me. Like, my life is not my own anymore. But what I can share with people is the feeling I feel in my heart, the feeling that I feel, the unconditional, selfless love to know that there's a higher power out there that loves you for you unconditionally, and like all the burdens that you have, you could just, all the suffering that you have, all the pain you're going through, all the heartbreak, you could just give it up to God, like just rest in God. So thank you, Rich, for coming back. So far,
Yeah.
it's amazing. There's just a couple more things that I want to ask, and then we'll wrap up the podcast and the video. So, what's one behavior that you will never tolerate in a relationship?
Well, if you could remember that question, if I can get back to what I was saying before we were so rudely interrupted. My point was, though, is that I prayed with the woman every night, just about. We Bible studied often, not just her and I, but her youngest son as well. I kept Bible verses pinned on the wall throughout the house. Again, I was the first person to raise my hand, and I'm Christian, and she would tell people as well. Definitely wasn't shy about that, but what I would suggest and what I would exercise sometimes, you know what I mean? And what I mean by that is, just because you're Bible studying with someone, that don't mean nothing. Just because you're praying at night, that doesn't mean anything. What counts is your reactions to that. What counts is your walk with the Lord daily. I wasn't I wasn't a example of anything good when it came to my walk with the Lord. I remember my ex almost slandering me on certain, with certain situations. When I would freak out, when I would lose my head, she would, you're supposed to be Christian. Like, she would tell me, this is the devil. This is the
Mhm.
devil working through you. And I
Mhm.
was so blinded by that. I felt, because I was caught up in pride. I was more concerned with my pride being hurt. Let me tell you guys something. Pride comes from the devil. In
Mhm.
Corinthians 13, love, it has nothing to do with pride. Love shall not be proud. It shall not boast. It shall not be insecure. I live by Corinthians 13 now. I live by the book of Proverbs, where it teaches you how to be an individual. It teaches how to be men. I highly suggest any man out there, regardless if you're in a relationship, a marriage, single, what have you, if you're hurting or if you're happy, it doesn't matter, because if you're hurting, you don't understand what true happiness is. And if you're happy without the Lord involved, you don't understand what true happiness is. I encourage any man or woman out there to look into the book of Corinthians 13. Look into the book of Proverbs, where it tells you how it's literally in everyone's Bible. There's a little sheet, a little breakdown on essentially how a man and how a woman is supposed to be, from actions to reactions. But I didn't set the tone as a good believer, a good follower in Christ. Therefore, I asked that woman vicariously. I asked that woman, just in the universe, I pray for her forgiveness for that. I wasn't a good example of who a Christian's supposed to be. You don't, and not saying that you're not allowed to take pride in certain things. I take pride. I don't have a wife. I don't have, all that going on. Again, there's still certain parts of me that are healing in certain ways, but I still take pride in myself as a man, that my actions from here on forward, I never raise my voice at a woman again. I'd never call a woman out of her name again. I can say that because I've been there. I've been there. You're not allowed, you're not supposed to let anyone get you to that boiling point. Anyone who truly knows you knows how to push your buttons. You know how to push your brother's buttons. I know how to push my mom's buttons, etc. You love that person. Why would you want to do something to bring them to their worst state, their worst mind frame? So anyway, as a Christian, I am fully responsible to teach someone, anyone that crosses my path, especially a future girlfriend, etc. This is how I get down. This is where I've been. This is where I am, and this is where I want to be. We as a whole cannot be we as a whole if I do not teach you what the words in this book say, what the words in this book mean, and where I used to be and what I used to perceive these words to be. So I just wanted to touch on that again.
I love that. I love that. You're really inspirational in that sense, and I feel like everyone who hears this, if they haven't brought in Jesus Christ or God into their life, like seriously, just pick up the Bible and read it for yourself. The truth is in there, and the words that you read are just so beautiful. Like it's such beautiful poetry, and the book of Proverbs is probably one of the books that I would highly recommend as well. Okay, so going back to my question, so just a couple more before we close up. What is one behavior that you'll never tolerate?
A woman who would allow a man to act in such a way as I did, and to not put a stop to it immediately, not meaning that, who knows? It could mean a breakup, right then and there, depending on the specific altercation or interaction. But there's too many women out here nowadays that don't have a voice, that don't have a backbone. And yeah, I just can't stress it enough. I can't preach it enough. You know, a man is to never put his hands on a woman. A man is to never, you're not supposed to pump fear into a woman. You're not supposed to yell at a woman. What satisfaction and what good does it do to yell at your woman? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to get off course here, but in order, and in the regards of tolerating though, just so what that being said from her side as well though, I could never deal with a woman talking down to me again. In a relationship, we are supposed to check each other. When I'm out of line, you put me back in line. When you're out of line, I put you back in line through talking, through communication, through love. When we're in public, when we're out in the eye of the world, around other people, you are always right. Always, in my eyes. I will never go against you. But when we get behind closed doors, I may let you know, hey, 2 times 2 is not 20. Like, just let you know. But just a woman who, who a disrespectful woman, lying, all that. There could be no second chance when it comes to certain types of pains, certain types of disrespect, such as cheating, such as lying, such as certain types of disrespect, you know what I mean? Certain types of language and so forth.
Definitely. So what advice would you give someone that may be in a similar situation to you right now? What is something you wish you knew back then?
I wish I had a mirror. I wish I had a mirror. I wish I had someone. I wish I seen this video, and obviously not of myself, but I wish I seen something like this video back then, because I thought in my mind everything I'm doing is right. And I tried so hard, and I've done ABC for you, so I'm right. And there's nothing that matters from here on that I can do that will justify me being wrong, because I've done this, and that for you. Love doesn't get down like that. Love, you don't keep tabs with love. Another beautiful, beautiful teaching in Corinthians 13. Love doesn't keep count of rights and wrongs. If I disrespect you, men out there, if you disrespect your woman on Monday and you come to terms to realize, you have to realize it within yourself. You must realize your wrongs within yourself in order to get better, in order to fix your wrongs. You can't expect anyone else to fix you, because at the end of the day, you're going to go back to the same hole that got you there in the first place. You must fix it within yourself. You must identify it in order to know how to fix it wholeheartedly. So if you wrong your woman on a Monday, in terms of just a little argument, a little disrespect, whatever, however it was, you wholeheartedly apologize, you address the issue with each other, and then by Friday, it's still getting brought up, then there's something deeper there. I wholeheartedly, I bring this up and I stress it so much because not just randomly, but because there's so much of this going on in the world nowadays. I don't think I know of any faithful couple, period. Like, and truth be told, like, a lot of people think, nowadays people try to justify what cheating is. They try, cheating has such a broad spectrum nowadays. Well, technically, I'm just talking to her, or I'm just talking to him, so it's not cheating, or that's my coworker, so it's okay, blah, blah. Like, since when did cheating have so many loose ends? Since when did cheating?
We're in a world of open relationships now.
Yeah, and that's because the world isn't in touch with God. The further we get away from the love and the word of the Lord is the further we will act like the word teaches us to act, plain and simple. And the world is a prime example of that, as sad as that is. And I already know there's going to be, again, I don't know what platform this is going to go on, but I already know there's going to be people, and if there's a comment section, there's going to be people in there, talking their talk and talking bad about the Lord. And I tried to come to the Lord, and, he didn't do anything for me. Well, the Lord also teaches us something called patience. The Lord also teaches us something that's called on God's time. And God's timing is never wrong. A true man, a true woman, true strength and courage comes with patience. Who are us? Who are we? Who are you? Who are we? Who are us as a whole? Who are we to expect, we want everything right now. Right now, we got 8-minute abs, 5-minute abs. We got steak you can make in a microwave dinner, for God's sakes. Like, there's so much that we expect right now because we don't have patience.
Yeah, we're in an instant gratification world. Let's talk about the devil. I know I said it in this, but like everything you were saying on a worldly level and perspective is all the devil's work. And this all comes to temptations, right? Temptations to worldly pleasures. So what do you think the devil wants regarding temptations? Can you comment on that? No, it's a full question.
I feel that it's simple. The devil wants you to give in. The devil wants you to give in to temptation. That's why if you look at, porn, for example, porn nowadays, the scenes, they're so catered to everyday life situations. As I just mentioned, like, oh, it's just my coworker. Well, a lot of it's catered towards everyday type of jobs and altercations and etc. And everything turns out being sexual. And again, I know that well because I was in that life. I essentially studied porn at one time. I was so involved with watching porn behind my partner's back. And porn is poison. Porn is straight up poison. And the devil dresses that up. That's temptation. Lust is the temptation that we all suffer from. So he, definitely dolls it up real good. And I mean, everything from the clothes that our kids wear, to the food that we eat, everything nowadays is devil ridden. And, the untrained eye, even Christian folks who aren't sternly, firmly walking with the Lord's word, are, given into temptation from the devil every day. You know what I mean? They don't realize it. They don't recognize it. I do from time to time. Everyone does. It's just, it's a sinful world. The devil wants us more than anything to fall from the grace of God. The devil's job, Satan's job, is to seek, kill, and destroy. And he'll do that any which way he has to. The closer we draw near to the Lord, the closer and the harder the devil is going to try to get us away from the Lord. But you see, a soul cannot occupy two owners. We can't have two masters. We cannot be on the fence when it comes to this world. You're either full of Jesus or you're full of the devil, period.
Yeah, and I always say to people, because the devil will work through your thoughts too. And if you feel anxious, negative, you're panicking, anything that's on a lower vibration, that's the devil speaking to you, manipulating your thoughts. But if you feel like you're vibrating on a high level, full of love, positivity, peace, joy, you want to spread that. You want to spread the word too. Like, that comes from Jesus. Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and God is pure love. Now, my last question to you. If you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't?
I'm not exactly sure how it'd be worded, but I feel that true love, some people listen to this, or just even like some of my homies, throughout my last relationship, hey, why why are you still hanging tough? Why are you still hanging in there? You know what I mean? Like anyone else, I mean, this woman's own family, her ex-in-laws, you know, timeless times would, or countless times rather, would ask me that. Like, man, you know, you can get someone so much easier. Like, why are you still hanging tough? And I feel true love doesn't quit. I feel you have to kill it to make it stop. I truly do. You know, people throw the word love around like I threw Christianity around back in the day. People don't take the time to really understand the sanctity of love. The sanctity of love cannot be messed with. It cannot be abused. It cannot be used. None of that, because then you start to build up debt with the sanctity of that love. Love is something to never, ever take for granted or mess with, because there's certain people out here in this world that don't even have love. There's certain people out here in this world that forget paying for a hooker. They pay just to have someone wake up and tell them they love them every day.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that when you truly love somebody, cheating, the person cheating on you, that's for me a deal breaker. I feel that, you know, you're kind of a fool to love someone past them sleeping with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout all the pain my ex put me through, in a sense, I thank her, because it taught me so much about myself. It made me such a stronger man. It made me identify that inner bitch and to wake up and realize there's some changes that need to be done. I've had to cut off some of the nearest and dearest people to my heart. I've had to let go of certain family members who I should have let go a long time ago, the little bit of family I had left. So I just, you know, I feel maybe one would ask why throughout all that torment, why throughout all the hard times, why didn't you let go? Why didn't you quit? And like I said, I just feel that once you try so hard to study a person's ways and to study a person's heart rather, and their family, their kids, you only know how to do that. You only know how to love them. I was a lazy piece of, you know what, back then. Like, I worked, I did my thing, but I was quick to take a day off. I was quick to have an excuse as to why we weren't going in this week. I mean, there must have been 100 different President's Days I was talking about. And I was lazy because I got comfortable as a man. I mean, women, you know, in this regard, y'all could think, I don't know how you guys look at your own, but for a man, I can speak upon other men. I feel in this regard, men don't ever get comfortable. Don't,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying don't ever trust your woman. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you as a man. Don't
Yeah.
ever get comfortable striving for more. When you get comfortable in the fight game, those hands get to go from answering the phone down to the shoulders. Next thing you know, we're in our pockets whistling Dixie. Like, you can't get down like that. As a man, we must stay on our balls of our feet at all times in life so we can remain in a pivotal stance, to be having pivotal moments to where we can go any which way at any given time in terms of work, in terms of growth. Pain is growth. Growth comes with uncomfortable situations. There's no growth in comfort ever. Like, I've learned that the hard way, and now I work my ass off. Now I'll work every single day. I'll work 24 hours a day if I can, just to escape who I used to be.
Mm. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Touching on the comfortable part, I love the quote, you should marry your partner to date them, because the hard work doesn't start when you guys fall in love. Like, the hard work starts when you commit to each other, and love is work. Like, it's every single day putting a conscious effort to put that person first. And when you start to get lazy, when you stop trying, like, man, that's a quick recipe to having a dead relationship. So with that note, Richard, how can our listeners connect with you online?
Instagram, Making Machines Salim. That's Making Machines, and then Salim, Salem, as in Mary. Um, I have a Facebook, Rich Salim. I don't really mess with it. Or email rich, the number 4, fit as in fitness, at gmail.com. That's rich4fit@gmail.com. Um, I don't do none of that Twitter stuff and iBox or whatever. I'm old
It's so old school.
school.
Rich, thank you so much for being real, raw, and vulnerable on on my first podcast, which is amazing. I so appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. And yeah, I will leave all of Rich's links at the bottom so you guys can get in touch. If this story resonated with you, please get in touch. Rich is an awesome coach, mentor, plays a huge part in my life and in my growth every single day. So I thank you for that. I'm truly grateful for you. So stay tuned to the next episode where we'll have more people on sharing their stories and their words of wisdom to you. See you later, everybody.